So the process is to basically turn the plastic into worm casting. And that's really amazing because it means you're making something on the other end that's sustainable and good for the environment, but also pays for the process. And that's key to all of this because it's nice to be able to recycle things. It's nice to be able to destroy toxic substances. But if you can't actually pay for all the work you put in on the front end, then it's never going to take off.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of the What the Nell podcast. We are in season 3 of the EcoPreneur's Edge with our very first guest of the season. But first, I have to welcome my amazing co-host who is back for season 3 as well, Mikey Benz. Welcome back.
Hello, Nell. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining. For those who don't know me yet, I'm Mikey with 2 E's. The 2 E's in my name stand for the environment and everyone, or the EcoPreneur's Edge, or a whole bunch of other double E's that we found along the way. But I am a sustainable salon owner, sustainable dance studio owner, sustainability coach, co-founder of the Green Beauty Community 501c3 nonprofit organization, and just all around trying to be a good human. So I'm super excited to dive into season 3. What can we expect today, Nell?
Oh my gosh, we can expect some really good conversation because I'm super excited about this. I know you are too. Our guest today is Sam Baker, co-founder, I believe, of Wrigglebrew, which is an organic fertilizer that's made from earthworm poop. So we're talking all about poop today.
Woo, let's go poop.
Let's go poop. Sam is a student researcher turned inventor turned entrepreneur. So we're really excited to get to know Sam a little bit better and know more about Wrigglebrew. So welcome, Sam, to the podcast.
Thank you, Nell. I'm really excited to be on the podcast. As you know, we kind of met because I had seen some of the content before and I got really interested. So I'm here. I'm happy. I want to talk about poop, and let's get into it.
Let's talk all about poop. So, Sam, I thank you for listening and watching the content, by the way. We so appreciate that. So tell us, what exactly is Wrigglebrew? What is organic fertilizer? Like all the things.
So, to start, organic fertilizer is like any other fertilizer. It's fertilizer that you can use to grow plants, whether in a garden or whether in your backyard, or even if you're a large farm owner. And organic just means that it's made in a way that is sustainable, or the product itself is made from sustainable components and won't cause, negative impact when it's used. And what we do at Wrigglebrew is we make a very, very sustainable kind of fertilizer from earthworm poop. And the reason we do that is because the fertilizer industry right now is just rife with fertilizers that are really bad for soil. They're really bad for the health of people, the planet. And so we want to replace those. We want to stop that. And earthworm poop is a really, really good place to start, at least from a biochemical perspective, to do that.
Oh, that's really cool. I love what you're doing. I got to know, though, what sparked the interest? Was there a particular situation? Tell us, how did you get into developing this?
I mean, it's a good question because, how does someone get into worm poop?
Right. That's
especially
basically
as a student, because I was a student when I started this, as you mentioned. It was really a passion project between myself and my co-founder Gabe, because the two of us, we were really interested in biology and chemistry, and there was a lot of fertilizer runoff happening in Florida back in 2020, 2019, when we were both freshmen at UCF. Specifically, I noticed this because I went fishing with my grandpa, and all the fish at our traditional fishing spot were dead. They had all died because there was a big fertilizer runoff event. Sure. So I realized that something kind of had to be done about this. And, I went to Gabe and I asked him if he had any ideas. And he showed me a video of some dude in Puerto Rico farming earthworms in big plywood boxes. And he said, this is a way to turn food waste and farm waste into fertilizer. And the fertilizer that it makes doesn't cause runoff. So if it had been used instead of the anhydrous ammonia that they're currently using, then all those fish wouldn't be dead. And so Gabe and I spent the next couple years, both as chem majors and in my mom's garage, trying to figure out a way to make this worm poop usable for large farms and as into a real product. And eventually we succeeded and made Wrigglebrew.
Amazing. Mikey, I'm like kind of stunned. This is a topic that we haven't really approached yet on the Ecopreneur's Edge, which is like landscape gardening. We've not really talked about this stuff, have we, Mikey?
We haven't, and this goes into one of the biggest things that I've transitioned my sustainability coaching to, which is our climate shadow. So a lot of people talk about carbon footprint, and that's just one area. That's like how we move ourselves or how we move the products that come to us. But in my home, where I'm broadcasting with renewable energy, as always, I do have 114 square feet of raised bed garden. I have a 3-tier compost pile, so my food waste, kind of goes in there. I'm always so nice to my earthworms, wherever I'm digging them up. And so I tried to set everything up to minimize my climate shadow by creating this closed loop. So if you're taking things that you're already throwing out and, composting them, or as Sam is doing, turning them into Wrigglebrew, then we can really stop so much of the middlemen who have to deal with our waste and refuse. So Sam, I would love to hear what is Wrigglebrew, and how is somebody who might not be aware of it, how can we get our hands on it?
So first of all, I think what you're doing at your backyard garden is awesome. I wish a lot more people were doing that, because it's really nice to be able to recycle some of the materials we make at home, especially in the food waste department. But Wrigglebrew for a gardener, someone who has raised beds in their backyard, is a kind of fertilizer that you can use to increase the growth of your plants, help them recover when they're looking bad or damaged. It's a kind of boost for your plants. It's a fertilizer, and it's a growth improvement formula. And what it's made from is, and I actually have a bottle here, it's made from earthworm castings. So actually, let me grab that. We take them and we brew them, hence the name implies, kind of like a beer.
Yeah.
With our own kind of custom mixture of microbes. So you're getting all the nutrition that you would from a vermicompost, an earthworm compost, really concentrated. And then you're also getting all kinds of microbes that you'd find in a healthy earthworm's gut, with a few other things on the side as well. And as a result, it ends up being really, really beneficial to the plant, but because it's all large organic molecules rather than very small, mobile, reactive salts, which is what most industrial fertilizers are, it won't kill the soil, it won't kill the soil microbiology, and it's not a petroleum product, which is nice. And that's something a lot of people don't realize about most fertilizers, is that they are petroleum products. If you get a nitrogen product, it came from natural gas. It didn't come out of the ground, which is kind of scary.
And it's usually not even petroleum products, it's petroleum byproducts. So all of the processing and refinement that goes through, we're just getting kind of the petroleum waste.
Exactly. Worse.
So the getting it out of the earth can be damaging, the process and refinement can be damaging, and then we're putting it on our farms, gardens, and soil, and that can be damaging. And then I live by the longest non-navigable river in the US, the Susquehanna River, and so I have actually been on bike rides, and this is after I was already into kind of like a little bit more of my sustainability journey. I would take bike rides because it was a nice carbon neutral alternative to driving, and I would go down by the river and I would see these fish that were belly up. And I was like, that's when I started learning about the runoff events of which you spoke, Sam. And I was like, wow, there's got to be better things, than anhydrous ammonia, the sulfurs, nitrogens, the waste and byproducts from the petroleum industry. So thank you, Sam. I have to commend you for that. Where can someone find Wrigglebrew?
So you can actually find it on Amazon. You can find it on our website, on wrigglebrew.com. You can also find it at a host of garden stores if you're in Florida, but we do ship all over the country. We're trying to get into some stores outside the state right now. It's been a bit of a challenge since, it's hard to talk to store owners when you're not in their state.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would be great if we could see you, some local home goods or lawn and garden stores here in central Pennsylvania, which would be amazing. But Sam, are there particular plants that this is best for? Or does it work for everything? Like, what are some of the specifics behind how it works?
So it does kind of work for everything, but there are some plants for which it works better. For example, I've noticed that plants with a lot of roots, it seems to work really, really well for. So a lot of plants that people tend to grow in the garden, things like tomatoes, potatoes, lots of different kinds of flowering plants. So azaleas, things of that nature seems to work really well on. Things it doesn't work quite so well on, cacti and succulent, are really the only ones I haven't seen much of an impact on. And that's because those guys, they don't really have much of like a root system to speak of.
Yeah.
They're very, very simple. But on pretty much everything else, it works really well. Although one thing that was very unexpected is it seems to work really well on orchids. And I don't know how much you know about orchids, but orchids don't really live in soil. They tend to kind of hang out on the top of soil, or on sometimes even they grow off the side of other plants, or they have a really weird survival strategy.
Yeah.
When you spray them with Wrigglebrew, though, they seem to really positively respond, which was unexpected for us. We had one woman growing African violets that her specific strain of them is supposed to bloom like 3 times in a year. And she had them bloom 8 times when she used our product, which was really, really crazy.
Oh my gosh.
But it just kind of goes to show how amazing earthworm castings are for plant health. And it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think as a farmer and, gardener, backyard gardener myself, I'm super aware of the, benefits of earthworms.
Yeah.
So we've talked about, obviously natural earthworms in your backyard are going to be, one of the best alternatives. Wrigglebrew is awesome for soil gardening, but I've also dabbled in hydroponics. So I'm curious, is there like a hydroponic recipe? Can you dilute it, or do a 4-to-1 ratio of Wrigglebrew to water and use that in a hydroponic garden?
Oh, yeah. In fact, we inadvertently did hydroponics with this when we first started because we were growing some plants with a fish tank, and we wanted to know what the impacts of Wrigglebrew were on a fish. Now, we expected for a long time that they'd be completely fine. In fact, Gabe, and this isn't related to your question, but Gabe one time actually drank some to prove that it was safe. So
Oh, wow.
we raised a fish in a tank filled with Wrigglebrew. Like literally filled completely. And then we ended up hooking that up to our aquaponics system, and it was a smash hit. It was really, really good. But we also ended up giving some to a farmer who was doing aquaponics, and what he did is rather than mix this into his water, he actually sprayed it onto his plants with a backpack sprayer. And he found that they were doing a lot better with pest prevention, that there seemed to be a lot fewer insects biting on the spinach that he was growing. So the question was why? Because, when you're talking about like a worm poop juice or a fertilizer, really, you don't expect an organic fertilizer to have kind of pesticidal impacts. But it did. And the reason that it did is because earthworms are actually very, very good at preserving plant defensive compounds. So it's another good reason to have them in your garden. When plants drop leaf litter or when they die, they tend to be many times full of defensive compounds. So like hot peppers are full of capsaicin, which for biting insects, if they swallow capsaicin, it like destroys their intestines. Well, earthworms absorb the capsaicin, they wrap it with a molecule called a chelator, and it ends up intact in their poop. And if you put that capsaicin-filled poop onto a plant, either into its roots by the action of earthworms or brew it into a liquid, the capsaicin is then available for that plant to use to defend itself. So, a well-made worm tea also acts as a kind of biopesticide, which is a 2-for-1.
I have just learned so much.
That's a lot in like one little thing, but
That's amazing, though.
it's pretty cool.
Wow. Okay. So, are there plans to create any other sort of substances in the future? I mean, this sounds like an amazing, well-rounded product, but I mean, I feel like there are certain other products that could be used in gardening as well. Are there any plans for the future?
Yes. We do actually sell the worm castings themselves now. And we are trying to work on producing a dried mixture of just earthworm microbes. So if you don't need the castings or you already have good soil, we want to be able to provide you with the microbes that you'd find from an earthworm, because those are really good too, and they're a lot smaller and easier to ship in sustainable packaging. So we want to move towards almost like a dehydrated brew next. But there is one other cool thing that we're working on now that you and I talked about a little bit, and that is we are trying to figure out ways to utilize the mechanism which worms have for digesting and eating plastic to produce a method to destroy plastic waste and turn it into worm castings. And we've actually already started having some success with that.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. I feel like 20 questions in my head about this one. So, I mean, how possible is this? Like, how much of an impact could that make? I mean, it sounds like it's working in trials and things like that, but how much of an impact could that possibly make on our ecosystem?
Well, Mikey and I were talking about this earlier, like how much plastic is used in every single industry, whether it's PCR plastic that we're recycling in the makeup industry, or it's the massive quantities of insulation we use in building houses. We produce billions with a B, tons of plastic, like every single year. So there's an enormous problem related to that. There's plastic ending up in landfills. There's plastic ending up in the ocean, ending up inside of fish and animals and even ourselves now. I mean, there was a study recently where they said that there's like a credit card's worth of plastic inside of our brain on average. But there are organisms that have actually adapted to eat this material. There are certain worms, larvae and earthworms that will actually eat certain kinds of plastic if they are starving and have access to it as their only food source. And they do this because they have microbes in their gut that can actually degrade these materials. So we've been working to isolate those microbes. We've been able to do this successfully to some degree. And we've been able to feed those microbes plastic in an environment that kind of encourages them to eat it faster. And the net result of that has been we've been able to, in some cases, in a bioreactor, which is basically a simulated worm gut, we've been able to digest about half a pound to 1 pound of plastic in 5 days in a jar that's maybe this big.
What?
Which is really cool because it's a lot of plastic and it's pretty fast compared to 500 or 800 years, which is what we normally wait for plastic to disintegrate.
I mean, I don't know. If that's not proof that Mother Nature doesn't possess everything we need for this planet, then I don't know what is.
It's got every tool for every problem. It's just a matter of going out and finding them and putting them together in the right places.
This is freaking brilliant. I love it.
It's
I'm
pretty
like
cool.
Speechless.
Yeah.
But before I forget, the two things that were rolling around in my head, I am familiar with some of the local kind of garden shops in my area. I actually have one at like the mouth of my neighborhood right over here. So I would love to work with you outside of our time on air to see if maybe we can sneak you into a central Pennsylvania marketplace.
Thank you, Mikey. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And like beyond that, if a billion people listen to this amazing Ecopreneur's Edge podcast and they want to, buy their own and support Wrigglebrew, what is and this is a little nerdy, how is your scalability looking?
So that's what I'm really most excited about. And I really hope a billion people listen to this because I'd love to get the word out to that many people.
Same.
There's a lot of ways to scale this, and it's a very eminently scalable process. So when you talk about breeding microbes, you talk about having them eating plastic, it's really like the same kind of process, ironically, you find in like brewing beer. It's like a fermentative process. So it can take place in a tiny jar, it can take place in a huge industrial tank. And what's so cool about this is, yes, the microbes are eating the plastic and they're breaking it down. But because these are worm gut microbes, what we're getting is material that we can then feed to earthworms. And when they eat that material, that biodegradable material produced by these microbes, they poop out regular worm castings. So the process is to basically turn the plastic into worm casting. And that's really amazing because it means you're making something on the other end that's sustainable and good for the environment, but also pays for the process. Mm-hmm. And that's key to all of this because it's nice to be able to recycle things. It's nice to be able to destroy toxic substances. But if you can't actually pay for all the work you put in on the front end, then it's never going to take off. But this is a method where you can actually turn it into something valuable. And I think that really is the key to making it scalable.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's I was going to ask if there was some sort of a way, because I know that's full circle, right? And, was there a filter? What happens when the earthworms are ingesting the microplastics? Like what happens then? And I just love that it's Mother Nature's filter. It's really cool what you're doing. And
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely amazing. My gosh, I'm drawing a blank on my my question that I
It's
actually
also a lot of fun to do too. I mean, it's cool, but it's fun because I get to work with worms all day, and that's a
yeah.
blessing. And no matter what way you look at it, I mean, if you enjoy worms, not everyone enjoys them. They're kind of gross sometimes.
Well, I mean, has this always been a passion? Have you always been, working or wanting to work with worms or insects and things like that? Like
No.
what?
No. I mean, so I originally, when I first started studying chemistry, I wanted to work with pyrotechnics, fireworks and explosives. Because I thought that, that's cool. That's fun.
Yeah.
My best friend Gabe, he's always kind of liked insects. When we first met each other, we met in ninth grade, and we were in the same biology class, and we were talking about like DNA and all kinds of stuff because we were nerds. And he told me one of the very first things he said is, "I want to make giant ants. I want to genetically engineer giant ants." And I was like, oh, "This guy's gonna be so fun to talk to. This is gonna be my best friend."
I mean, you know what, Sam, I gotta say, I love the drive. I love the passion that you have for this. I mean, I think that most kids in college, they're interested in partying and doing, all the things, and you're out here trying to save the world. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, partying is nice too, but you can't. It's kind of hard to have parties if there's no world to party in.
Mike,
The
that's the
Mikey
Mikey
drop
drop.
moment.
That's it right there.
So we've come up through the seasons. Like there's always like one tagline in each episode that ends up being the mic drop, but we called it the Mikey drop moment uh, since it was just more fitting. So that was definitely our Mikey drop because I'm always championing like the E's in my name stand for the environment, and everyone, the environment always comes first, because if we have no environment, there's no politics to argue about, there's no worms to get casings from, there's nothing else to worry about. So that's why it's always been number one for me. And I'm just gonna quickly switch it back to a little bit of the business vein, because
Sure.
as a business owner myself, I know that there's things that people don't always think of. If somebody was listening to this, who would be your target customer? Like, who are you looking to impact the most with Wrigglebrew?
Hmm. So there's really two kinds of people that I really want to reach. So the first is I really want to reach the home gardener. People who are using fertilizer products or going to Home Depot or wherever it might be and buying fertilizer. And I want them to see this as an alternative, something that might save their plants, save them a little bit of money, and maybe save the world too. But the other big market is I want to reach the large farmers. And I know this may not be the medium to reach all of them, but it's definitely that's the market I really, really want to hit. We are actually, and this is something I didn't get to talk about earlier, so I'm glad you brought it up. We are actually producing this in bulk. In fact, 80 to 90% of this that we make goes to large farms. It goes to soy and corn growers, and they're saving a lot of money using it. That's one of the other cool things. They're actually making more money by using an organic input because it is cheaper than a lot of the synthetic inputs, bleh. And it's also a lot better for the soil, so it's not creating long-term destruction in their farm. I want to reach those folks because they're the largest users of fertilizer. And believe it or not, I think farmers really care about the soil more than almost anyone. And they want to use things that are good for their soil. They just usually don't have a choice. Well, now they do have a choice. The choice is Wrigglebrew. It's a really good choice. And if you're a farmer or you know someone who's a farmer, please let them know about this because it's something that could save them money and their soil.
I really wanted to bring that up because not so much in my immediate area, but I know where Nell is at. There's a lot of farms, and between where I'm at and Philadelphia, there's a lot of farmland. So, like, maybe somebody in our immediate network, Nell, is going to listen to this and be like, "All right, we're going to do a seven-figure order of Wrigglebrew."
That would be really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I do know a few people in this area that might distinctly be very interested in Wrigglebrew.
Well, let them know because it's affordable. It's cheaper than a lot of the other options. So even if they don't care about the planet, they can care about their wallet.
Yeah, that is for sure. Sam, I just have one more question for you. It just came to the top of my head. Is there so somebody that's using synthetic products right now and is looking to make the change into an organic fertilizer like Wrigglebrew? Is there some sort of like time period like of adjustment, or how do you suggest somebody gets into the realm of using this fertilizer?
That's a very fascinating question now. So my philosophy on it has usually been just kind of switch to it as soon as possible. The sooner the better. But there is something to be said about the fact that if you were using a synthetic fertilizer for a long time, your soil will be a pretty hostile place to the microbes and to the microbiology that you need. Now, in many cases, it's better to just start using this anyway because, otherwise your plants are going to be living in completely unfertilized sand. But in our case, I would say, yeah, it's something where you should either, maybe wait a few days to kind of let the soil calm down a little bit if you've just been using some anhydrous or ammoniacal fertilizer. Kind of let it reach more of a baseline. And then get to using the brew as fast as you can because you really want to start getting the biology back into the soil and bringing the life back.
Absolutely. I know sometimes I myself do not have a green thumb, and I've tried using fertilizers, and I won't go down the synthetic route, which is maybe why I haven't been successful because I just didn't know what I was doing. And I know a lot of people do use synthetic fertilizers, and
it's easy.
It's not always, like you said, it's a hostile environment. So I don't want somebody to get the wrong impression about, I don't want somebody to do it incorrectly like I would myself. So,
well, that's one of the great things about this it's very difficult to screw up with Wrigglebrew.
That's good to know.
You can use way more than you should, and it's not going to kill your plants. It's not going to poison anything. You can apply it in 3 or 4 different ways. It's still going to have good impact. So it's a pretty easy to use fertilizer, especially compared to, compared to the synthetic stuff. So like if you use a lot of the nitrogen stuff and you accidentally spill it on yourself, there's a label that say, you need to wash your hands off for 20 minutes. If you swallow any of it, you got to go to the hospital.
Right.
But if you pour this on your hands, I mean, it's kind of icky gross, but like you can wash your hands off and then you're back to the races.
Yeah, absolutely. Mikey, do you have any questions left for Sam?
I think I had 2, but I'm only going to remember one until maybe I start talking. So with our season 3, I think that this question is just going to permeate throughout the season. So you are actually our first guest that I'm going to ask this of. Is there any use case, or are you already using artificial intelligence in your business?
So the answer to that is yes, definitely, because as I mentioned earlier, like way back in the beginning, I have no sense of aesthetic whatsoever. So designing imagery is very, very challenging for me. I've been able to, for a lot of my, I do presentations for garden clubs, a lot of my imagery, I have it AI generate or have AI find pictures and things for me. I've had AI fix typos for me, help me research for background stuff. Even when I'm doing engineering work back at our lab where we actually produce the product, sometimes I just ask it for its opinion on complex chemical equations and other things like that, and it's actually been able to help me and come up with the right answers. So there's a lot of AI use case, and it's saved me a lot of time. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely the future, I think. And in biology and biochemistry, I'm really holding out hope because I'm waiting for an AI that can design enzymes. And once you can design enzymes, then you can start deploying those to eating plastic waste without even using living organisms.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I'm so excited.
Exciting stuff.
Just to be a little bit more nerdy, I did remember my other question though. Which AI platform do you think is going to get to enzyme creation first?
Ooh. I think there's probably going to be some specialized AI that I'm not even anticipating for that. But I really hope that, like something like ChatGPT will be developed to do that, just because I already have the premium membership, so I want to get more money for it.
There you go. I love that. And then my final question for you, Sam, is are you aware of or do you already have like an urban gardener? Like there's some giant vertical farms here in Philadelphia. Do you have any of those as your, clients?
Yes, I do. Actually, I have 2 kind of urban farmers, both in the city of Orlando, and so it's not quite as developed in terms of a city as Philadelphia is, but still, there's some vertical farming that they're doing. There's some aeroponics, some hydroponics, some aquaponics, and they're seeing really great results with Wrigglebrew. So, to any big farmers of the vertical or the urban variety in Philadelphia, please drop me a line, because I'd be very happy to talk about how I could save you money and make you more organic.
I want to get to that, but something that I usually wrap up with is there anything that we forgot to ask you that we should have asked you?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
I mean, we're pretty thorough.
What is a worm's favorite food? Might be a good question.
Oh, what is a worm's favorite
What
food?
is a worm's favorite food?
I've been doing extensive research on this because I want to make sure that they're happy and healthy. It seems right now to be pumpkin or watermelon. They really, really love pumpkins and watermelons.
Oh, interesting.
The rind specifically. That's
This
what they're
is
really
great because I have residual pumpkin volunteers in my compost pile. So they don't usually get utilized, but if they make my worms happier, then I'm here for it.
So yeah, I mean that's something. If you're a gardener, you should start worm farming too. Both Mikey and anyone in the audience. If you've got a garden and you've got compost, see about putting together a little worm farm for yourself. It's a great way to make fertilizer. It's a lot of fun to keep them. Sometimes it's also just really satisfying to watch them chew through some old food scraps and have, black gold come out of it. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, Sam, I think you might have inspired me to revisit my gardening endeavors this year.
Please do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Sam, where can people find you and connect with you if they wish to do so?
So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. Look for Sam Baker Wrigglebrew. There's a lot of Sam Bakers. It's a really common name. But if you look for Wrigglebrew, you should find me. Or you can email me directly at sam@wrigglebrew.com. Wrigglebrew is spelled with an R, so WRIGGLEBREW.com. And yeah, just send me an email. I love talking to people. I love talking about worms. And I love answering questions. So thank you, Nell.
Absolutely. Well, of course, all of that information, including where to buy Wrigglebrew, will be in the show notes, as well as the description here on YouTube. So, you guys, thank you so much for an awesome episode. I am so excited. Season 3, we are off to an amazing start with our guests. And I just want to remind everyone, if you are watching on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, pass it along to a friend who needs to hear it, aka farmers, home gardeners. And if you are listening on your favorite audio platform, don't forget to subscribe there as well. Leave us a review. That's how we grow. I mean, that's also how we grow in addition to Wrigglebrew here at the What the Nell podcast. So thank you both for being here today. And thank you all to all of you. We'll catch you on the next one.